My name is Heather and welcome to the Cowichan Valley. We're going to take a look today at the Notebook 10 feature of layering. Now, Notebook 10 software is like many of our applications today. It's what we call an object-oriented software. An object-oriented software allows us to change the features of an object and also keep the objects relative to each other on our particular document page. So what does all that mean? What that means is if I choose to bring in an object such as this paper plane, which is just a graphic, this paper plane was brought in at a different time than this paper plane was brought in. I can select the object, I can resize the object, but I can adjust some other features of the object. I can bring this object so that it's as if it was the last object put on the page. I can adjust its order. This was a student that brought up his paper plane last in the class, so of course it's going to be brought to the front. Now, what can I do with layering? Layering adds a lot of mystique, magic, and intrigue into our activity files. It creates a little glint in the eyes of the students when they get to come up and trick or discover the secrets that are in an activity file. For example, what happens if I take this paper plane and bring it by the garbage can? Well, of course, it's in the garbage can for good now. Or is it? Let's learn some secrets. So we've already spoken about software being object-oriented. You're able to change the characteristics of each object. Here we have 3 squares. Each of these squares started out being identical. They were just the outline of a rounded rectangle. What I did, though, is I selected each object and I changed its characteristics or its properties. Now again, we can select properties from our drop-down menu, or of course we can select it from our side tab. I'm going to change the fill of this particular object to a bright yellow. But I could just as easily have changed the quality or the property of where this object is on the page. Right now it's on the top of the pile of rectangles, but I'm going to change the order and I'm going to send it to the back. And so now this particular object is hidden at the back. How can we use this to our advantage? Well, oftentimes we can have information presented in a sequence that we'd like the students to discover throughout an activity. For example, we'd like them to learn the first fact before they go on to the second, and perhaps the third, and finally the fourth. So let's take a look at the magic of layering. Here we have what looks like a garbage can, 3 stars, and that's it. But let's look a little closer. If I put my finger on the board and select there, we'll find out that we have an object, and that object is simply a rectangle that is the same color as the background. I can take that object and I can move it and give you a hint as to what is behind or further back in our pile of objects. But by putting that white on white, I've added a little bit of mystery. Here we have what looks like a garbage can, but it's not quite a garbage can. Here I have a front of a garbage can and I have the entire garbage can behind. Now, my secrets will work if I remember that this will always be my top object on the page. Right now, is it my top object? Well, let's pull out one of our stars. I can ask my students, what is 7 plus 3? We can talk about the answer. We can write the equation down below. 7 plus 3. Students can come out, interact, and hopefully discover that the answer is 10. We can double check by pulling the star out further, and sure enough, the answer is 10. We finish with the question, let's put it off into the garbage can, and something's not quite right, because instead of having our equation at the very top of the pile, we want to have our garbage can front at the top of the pile. So let's just change that. Selecting our garbage can front, changing the order, so now it is brought to the front. We're not going to bring it forward because we don't want it to just come up one level in our pile of objects on the page. We want it to come up to the very front. And so now you'll notice that my equation, 7 plus 3 equals 10, will now successfully disappear into the garbage can. Ordering, sequence, layering, keeping a little bit of mystery into the activity. Here's another example, another use for layering. Here we have selected the map of Canada. Actually, we put the map of Canada together from all the pieces, provinces and territories, from our gallery content. After it was all put together, I selected it and I duplicated it. And I put all the pieces to one side, and on the other side, I simply changed the color so that the fill on the inside was white. Now we have a task for the students. We're going to ask the students to put Canada back together. And we can succeed in doing this by providing them with an outline, which is at the bottom of the pile, and we can allow them to put their pieces on the top. So here's our first piece. Let's take a look at it. And there we go. Match it up with the outline until eventually we have Canada back together. So add a little layering to your activities and you'll find the engagement and the mystery and magic of Notebook 10.